I have a really, really great special guest today. I've been wanting to have him on my show for about 2 years. He's a fascinating man, and he's very knowledgeable when it comes to law because he is an attorney for the Ramsey County, and his name is John Choi. And here he is, and I have him on my show today. Yay!
And I'm so glad to be here today.
I'm so glad you're here. So can you tell me a little bit about the problems of the sex trafficking?
Yeah, well, that's something that I've been working on since I first got elected. I was elected in 2010, and I was sworn into office in January of 2011.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I wanted to do was, because I really believe in order for us to make a difference around sex trafficking, we need to understand who are criminals and who are victims. And I believe that children who are being prostituted are victims of crime, and there are children in need of protection. So I got my colleagues in the metropolitan area, all of the elected district attorneys, to make a really important announcement that we would no longer prosecute those under the age of 18 with prostitution. And I think that's an important thing because if we really want to go after the people who are the responsible parties here, it is those people that are doing the trafficking and those Johns who are engaged in this type of activity.
Yes.
And it's not the girls, and I would even say the women, because a lot of times people over the age of 18, they all started when they were much younger.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not...
or else they were molested when they were much younger.
That's absolutely right. So we have so much sexual violence, and so we just need to appropriately understand who the victims are. And so now in law enforcement, with the passage of the Safe Harbors Law, we will no longer be prosecuting those that shouldn't be prosecuted, and appropriately look at the responsible people, which are those who are doing the trafficking, the pimps, and the Johns.
And the Johns. Yay, that's my mission.
That's right, yes.
That's my mission.
So we got that right in the state of Minnesota, but we got a lot more work to do.
Well,
but that's a start.
I don't understand. I know you must have seen some of my shows, and I just have to say this. In Sweden, you've probably seen on my website, it says about the Swedish law. They passed a law when mostly women were in the parliament. That it was against the law to buy or sell a human being for sexual, for prostitution. So why couldn't that just be a law in America too? Why couldn't that be a law we pass here in America?
Well, we do have laws that you can't, human trafficking laws, and so what we need to do is we need to start enforcing them. And we need to start building cases. And these cases are very difficult to build because the dynamics in these cases, you've got a victim who is in a really bad place in their life. And they may believe, actually, that they could love the person that's been trafficking. They could, just out of fear and coercion, that could be scared to testify against their trafficker.
They are scared to testify.
And so what we need to do is we need to help those victims with services and get them into a right place in their life. And then when we do that, they'll start realizing that what has happened to me, what has been taken from me was wrong.
So evil. So wrong.
And then they're going to participate in a prosecution and cooperate, and then we can hold people accountable, and that's what we've been able to do.
Oh, thank God. Is it happening?
It is. In fact, there's a case in Roseville just recently that we got a conviction on and a sentence of 21 years for trafficking, which was the longest prison sentence that I'm aware of in the state of Minnesota for human trafficking. But it involved a man with a 17-year-old girl, and he was trafficking her. And she was a young girl from outstate Minnesota, and this is not the victims come from all over the state of Minnesota, and there's a connection with, vulnerable girls, those who run away from home, who are homeless. Those are the people that these bad people prey upon.
That's what those guys look for.
That's right. And so we had a case involving a situation at a hotel, and thankfully, because of the conscientious efforts of a hotel employee who just knew something was not right, she called the police.
Oh, thank God.
And then when the police arrived, they knew that this was a ambiguous but a weird, not right situation. So they separated the two. And then after about an hour of questioning the child, the 17-year-old teen, you know, she was kind of like doing this for an hour,
Oh, sure.
and she would
was
not
locked
talk
up inside.
and didn't want to say anything, and
Nope.
I just didn't want to be a part of anything.
No.
But the police officer in Roseville kept repeating to her that you will not be prosecuted, and we want to help you. We can help you. Kept telling her, yes. And then after about an hour, she broke down in tears.
God, thank God.
And she recognized that, I guess that moment, that she needed help.
Yeah.
And she said it out loud.
Oh, thank
And
God.
from there, the police developed a great relationship with this girl. And by the time that we got to the trial, this young, courageous, beautiful 17-year-old girl was ready and willing and able to testify against this really bad man named Samuel Cozart. And because of her willingness, he knew that the cards were going to be stacked against him.
Yep.
And so he folded and he agreed to plead guilty as charged.
Oh, good.
And the judge sentenced him to 21 years in prison.
Yes, good.
So that's a great moment.
Yeah,
but that's a big part of recognizing who the victim is.
Right.
You know, because we weren't going to get anywhere. Let's say that if we said to the 17-year-old,
Yeah.
you're in trouble,
Yeah.
they're going to prosecute you.
Yeah.
The only way out of this is
Yeah.
you've got to testify against him.
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing that the pimps are, which would be to
Threatening her.
and that's not just going to work.
No, it's never worked.
And so what works is a victim-centered approach.
Yeah,
and
soft, gentle approach to her because she.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, boy. That I read about that. That was great. I loved it. Yes, I hope he serves every inch of it. I hope he never gets out.
And you know, in this past year in 2012, we've had 12 prosecutions involving the trafficking of children, and typically we've never had that many before. So we're really going after this issue of child trafficking, and we're focused on getting those traffickers.
And what's the age of these girls?
Well, the average age of entry into prostitution is 13 years of age. I'm going to repeat that for you.
Do you hear that? Yeah.
13 years of age is the average entry for someone to have been prostituted. And a lot of the victims that we see are in their teens, and what I fear and what I see going on is that these victims are getting younger and younger.
Sure.
And so it is, I think, in our community, and it's happening right before our eyes, the greatest human rights atrocity here in America.
Amen.
I agree. The selling of children online for sex.
Yep. Slavery.
As President Obama said, modern-day slavery.
Slavery. It is slavery. It's probably worse slavery than back in the slave days.
Yeah.
Just see, I don't know, it seems like our country is so hip on we're moving forward, so you know, we're technology's so great, and and everybody communicates with everybody, and now they've got these, you know, these our cell phones, and we've got all these deals where you can communicate. Well, that's how they're getting to these kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Is through this communication. It's so open.
Yeah, and I think also too, I mean, with respect to the internet, I mean, you know, this issue was once on street corners.
Yep.
Is really now on the internet. And you know, people have said that ordering a girl is as easy as ordering a pizza. And
I'm sure it is.
And I think, but you know, if there's anything that's good or reassuring about, I think where we're going to with respect to this issue is that as more and more people find out about this issue, they're recognizing of how wrong this is. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about prostitution. First of all, that maybe if the problem here exists, that maybe those victims aren't really our children. They're children from far away.
Well, yeah, see, originally everybody thought it was from another country.
And it's not. They're kids
right
from here, right in our
Minnesota.
own community, our own children.
Yeah, our own
whether
children.
it's greater Minnesota, outstate Minnesota, or in the metropolitan area. I think another misperception that we have is that prostitution is a victimless crime. And that we have this image, this Hollywood image of Julia Roberts on Pretty Women.
Oh, Pretty Women, yeah.
And we think that's what it is, and it isn't. And what it is
it's really bad.
Young people, kids who are being threatened, acts of violence, and they're forced to do this. In fact, you know, we had a really heartbreaking case involving and they're always, you know, kids that are vulnerable, you know, and oftentimes are going to be runaways.
Those pimps know that.
That's right, and they prey upon these kids. And so we had a case that originated in Des Moines, Iowa. A 17-year-old girl was going to run away from home, and this bad person here in our community convinced her to do that and take a bus. But she didn't have any bus fare, and so he arranged for one of his friends to have sex with her for $50. And then she got on the bus, and then she came up here, and then she spent 7 days here in St. Paul, and she went through a horrific ordeal where she was forced to have sex with 30 men from our community.
I agree. I know that's happening, and it's just horrendous.
And then she called 911, and she was in tears because they had gone out. Her two traffickers had gone out for dinner and left her in the hotel room. And she called the 911 operator in fear, and she was crying. She was hysterical. She said that she needed help.
She was abused, yeah.
Yep, and that she explained to the 911 operator what had been happening to her, and she had a pair of scissors behind the pillow because she thought that she was going to die. She thought that she was going to get killed.
Oh,
so
no.
you can just imagine the horror for the 17-year-old girl.
Yeah,
and I know what it's like. I know that you can, but I want the public to know it.
I want the people to know.
The horror and just the horrific nature of all of this. And so I think we as a community need to recognize what this issue is.
What can the community start doing to help? If they see something that's out of sorts, should they call?
Absolutely.
911? Should they?
No suspicion is too small.
I agree.
And I think people need to recognize that you can save a life if you think that there's something going wrong. There's nothing. What hurt is it to call 911, and a police officer can
come and
figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
And that was the whole case involving at the Days Inn in Roseville. It had that hotel employee not acted on her suspicions. Who knows where the 17-year-old girl would be right now today?
You're training, aren't you, having a program?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Training hotel people?
And that whole case got me thinking about, well, we need to engage the community. And so we embarked on a mission to train every hotel employee in Ramsey County so that they can be more involved. And the response from the industry has been great because they recognize that, oftentimes this is where the activity is happening, and they don't want this to happen in their hotels.
No, heavens, no.
Who wants to rent a hotel room when you know that in that bed a child has been trafficked?
Is going to be trafficked.
Yeah. So they've been very responsive, and so we organized jointly a training session for hotel employees in Ramsey County. We put together a DVD, and we're distributing that amongst the hotel industry.
Wonderful. My God, that's wonderful, John. That is great.
Yeah.
Now, I was so excited. I got the clipping, matter of fact, in my bag. If a predator is out there and he's been arrested for something, you're going to put a monitor, a GPS on his ankle?
Oh, yeah. I believe that when domestic abuse situations happen, and we hear so often, where, someone says, I'm going to leave you, and then someone ends up dead. So I think that everything that we do in law enforcement and the criminal justice system, when we think about domestic violence and we're reacting to a situation, we need to look at that situation potentially as homicide prevention.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so we need to do everything that we can. So as we think about processing this case in this giant assembly line called the criminal justice system, everybody starting from the 911 operator all the way through to the probation officer needs to be thinking about, we got to keep the victim safe. And so we're doing a lot of great things.
Oh, do you think that's going to, I think that would be the best thing ever happen.
Well, we're doing it
if
right now.
If I had a little device inside my pocket, and my old man was trying to make me not get out of prostitution, which happened to me in Vegas, and was trying to kill me a couple times. And he'd come within how many miles of me, and I'd know it. My beeper would beep. Is that what's going on?
Exactly. So in the context of domestic violence, so if we have a case that we think that there's high lethality factors, that there's a good chance that serious harm could be done to the victim, but we know that this person is going to bail out because, the reality is that, when you charge someone with a crime, between the time that you charge them with a crime and the time that there's a trial, the judge has to evaluate what the appropriate bail would be because you can't keep them in jail unless they've committed, there's a huge public safety risk and all of those types of issues, but most people are going to be able to bail out. And so So they're going to be out
even
there.
Even if they beat the heck out of the gal.
Yeah, they're going to set some sort of bail amount, and bail is for the purpose of making sure that they come back for court, you know.